calling to order Historic Landmarks Commission, September 29th, 2021. Let's start with a roll call.
All right, thank you. This is Mary. I'll go ahead and take the roll call, and I'll start with Chair Grumbine.
Here.
Vice Chair House.
I'm here.
Commissioner Jordan is absent. Commissioner Drury.
Here.
Commissioner Edmonds.
Here.
Commissioner Lundvik.
Here.
Commissioner Mahan.
Here.
Commissioner Manuel.
Here.
And Commissioner Uli.
Oh, I think you might be muted, Commissioner Uli. I think he's saying here, as in here, he hears.
All right. Well, we do have a quorum, so thank you.
All right. Great, thank you. All right, so let's start with public comment. Any member of the public may address the commission for up to 2 minutes on any subject within our jurisdiction that is not on the agenda, on today's agenda. So if you have public comment, please click on the green arrow hand icon, follow the instructions, and you'll have 2 minutes to speak on any subject.
Thank you, Chair Grumbine.
Just a matter of order. I can hear now.
All right, here.
Thanks.
Thank you, Commissioner Uli. All right, and if you are attending by webinar and you'd like to give oral public comment, please follow the instructions on screen. Ms. Tarnowska, did we receive any written general public comment?
Thank you, Mr. Hamilton. Commissioners, we did not receive any general written correspondence for today's full commission agenda. Back to you.
Okay, thank you. I only see one person attending by webinar and their hand is not raised, so I think we can close out general public comment.
Great, thank you. Okay, let's go on to also close public comment and on to the approval of the minutes of the Historic Landmarks Commission meeting September 15th, 2021.
So moved. So moved. Ha.
All right, motion by Vice Chair House out of the gate first.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Uli. All right, under discussion, any drafts or edits, or sorry, any edits to the draft?
No, sir.
Anyone else?
I have only one. It's not significant. It's on page 5. The motion, item 2. I think the applicant may use galvanize, not shall use galvanize. May use galvanize. If he chooses to paint it, of course he can, but we said if he wants, he can use. So I think shall should be replaced with may.
Yeah, all right. Great, thank you, Commissioner Lundvik. Any other edits? All right, in that case, let's have a roll call vote for approval of the minutes.
All right, thank you. I'll go ahead and start with Commissioner Drury.
Yes.
Commissioner Edmonds.
Yes.
Commissioner Lundvik.
Yes.
Commissioner Mahan.
I'll abstain.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Uli.
Yes.
Commissioner Manuel.
Abstain.
Vice Chair House.
Yes.
And Chair Grumbine.
Aye.
All right, motion carries. Thank you.
All right, thank you. We are on to approval of the consent calendar for September 29th, 2021. Mr. Hamilton.
Thank you, Chair Grumbine. On today's consent agenda, we had Commissioners Mahan and Edmonds for item A, and then Mahan and Manuel for item B. Item A was 1309 State Street. It received project design approval and final approval as submitted. And then item B was 401 East Sola, and it received project design approval and final approval with the comment that the front gate along Sola Street shall be 42 inches high instead of the 36-inch height shown on the plans. And that was the full agenda.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Hamilton. Do I have any comments from any of the consent agenda reviewers?
Mr. Chair?
Commissioner Mahan?
Yeah, this is an outstanding bungalow. And if you're not familiar with it, you should drive by it at 401 what is the other cross street?
You
Not-
sold.
Pardon me?
Sola,
Yeah,
Sola.
so 401 Sola,
Sola
it's a
and
beautiful
Laguna.
bungalow.
Sola
And-
and Laguna.
Yeah, and Los Olivos on the corner. It's just a great example of bungalow architecture, and the applicant was very accepting to our comments, and he bent over backwards to do a good job. We're very pleased with the project. Drive by if you like it.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, Commissioner
Chair?
Drury.
Yeah, I went by it as well before the consent meeting just to see it. They're doing a fantastic job. They've got some buttoning up to do, but I agree with Commissioner Mahan. But it's at the corner of Laguna,
Laguna
Sola.
and Sola. Yes, Laguna and Sola.
right up from the fire station on Sola Street. Beautiful, beautiful bungalow. Beautiful bungalow.
Thank you. Thank you all the commissioners that were involved with that review as well. That looked quite nice. Okay, so with that comment, is there a motion to approve the consent?
So
All right,
moved.
Commissioner Uli? I think Commissioner Uli beat you to
Oh.
it. And
I'll
Vice
never-
Chair House beat you to the second. They keep catching you flat, but that's the advantage of the video.
You guys.
See them light up. All right, so, and then under discussion, any discussion about consent items? Okay, in that case, let's have a roll call vote.
All right, thank you. I'll go ahead and start Commissioner Edmonds,
Yes.
Commissioner Drury,
Yes.
Commissioner Lembeck,
Yes.
Commissioner Mahan,
Yes.
Commissioner Uli,
Yes.
Commissioner Manuel,
Abstain.
Vice Chair House,
Yes.
and Chair Grumbine.
Aye.
All right, motion carries. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, we are on to item D, announcements, requests by applicants for continuances, withdrawals, future agenda items, and appeals.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Hamilton?
I have a couple of announcements, and I believe Mr. Hernandez does as well. So I will start with an item that was continued to today's agenda, which is not on the agenda. This is the AUD project at 410 State. It was continued to this hearing from the September 1st hearing. The applicant, I touched base with the applicant. They indicated that they would be postponing indefinitely, but plan on returning for final approval when they do resubmit. So that's why that's not on today's agenda. And then the second thing is that at the last meeting, I had stated that the Public Works Director, Cliff Maurer, would be attending this hearing for introductions and a discussion of the Lot 3 Paseo. In fact, that discussion has been scheduled for the October 13th hearing, and it will be agendized as a discussion item. That's all I have, and Mr. Hernandez, I think, has a couple others.
All right, thank you, Mr. Hamilton. Ms. Hernandez? Oh, wait, Commissioner Lembeck on, let's go to Commissioner Lembeck first, 'cause I think it's gonna be on this item, so go ahead.
Yes, I'm questioning why we keep getting delayed on discussion of 9 West Figueroa Street. I mean, our action a couple of months ago was they would remove the fencing, and it has not happened. And it's surprising to me that they can continue to, I won't say delay, but they're delaying taking any action that is meaningful on that paseo. And I just, it kind of speaks to what the Transportation Department and Public Works has done for years and years and years with regard to landmarks. And it's disappointing to me, and I hope it's disappointing to other commissioners.
All right. Thank you, Commissioner Lendick. Mr. Hamilton, was there any more you wanted to add or respond to in that? And then I'll go to Vice Chair House after.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just to note that I think the reason for the delay, it's not really a delay, it was more of a miscommunication. We thought that the director would be attending this meeting, but in fact it is the next meeting. So sorry about that. And regarding the improvements that are, being done at the Paseo, I think we should wait to hear from the Public Works Director on that before commenting too much further. That's all I've got.
Okay, thank you. The Vice Chair House, was it on this subject or was there something else?
No, there was something else, and that is I had asked Mr. Hamilton to fill us in on what's happening on Carrillo Street. Carrillo Street is in EPV all the way up to the freeway, and they have undertaken a project, I guess it's also Public Works or Transportation, I'm not sure, installing some new streetlights and maybe replacing some. That's all well and good because I think they're kind of standards that were pre-approved. But I have noticed that at both the Bath Street and Delavina Street intersections, the colored scored concrete crosswalks have been removed and have just been asphalted in. Presumably that's all part and parcel of new electrical work and they plan to put the concrete back, but it's kind of surprising that there wasn't at least a report to the Historic Landmarks Commission as a heads up of what was being done. So it didn't arouse, what Commissioner Lendick is reflecting, just the disappointment that there's a lack of communication. So if they're replacing the concrete like for like, that's all well and good, but it would be good to have information from our dear Public Works Department on what exactly they're doing.
All right. So to staff on that, Mr. Hamilton, or is there any more information needed, or can you report back to us on that, on what's happening with that particular situation?
Yes, thank you.
At the next meeting or after an email.
Yes, Chair Grumbine and Vice Chair House, I actually did look into that over the last couple of weeks, and as far as we can tell, the only alterations in EPV are those 5 that are have been pre-approved. And that
you're breaking up, Mr. Hamilton.
Yeah, we can't understand you. And now your picture's going bad.
I turned my webcam. Can you hear me better?
A little bit better. It's still garbled.
Okay. Yeah, so the project got approved by ABR, and the only alterations that are occurring in EPV are those 5 new light poles that are the city standard Carrillo style detail. So that's about all the information I have at this point. I did reach out to Public Works on it and also reviewed the records that we have. And those are the only alterations in EPV that we could find.
Okay,
and
so if you could just double check and let us know if there's any other new information on it next time, or via email, that'd be great. Okay.
Thank you.
Commissioner Lendick, did you have a question?
Yep. While we're expressing our disappointments, I wanted to remind.
Why don't you say happy things? Say 3 nice things after you give them one criticism.
I've had a number of complaints addressed to me regarding Library Avenue and the paving that was removed during the construction of the museum remodel. And I've been told, and I've seen drawings, that it is the intention to replace that paving almost in its entirety when the library garden or whatever is constructed. My concern is that we don't know when the library's project will move ahead, funding or whatever. And we still have a very chewed up, not pleasant paving pattern as you go down Library Avenue and into the museum. Just want to point it out to the commission that we don't want to get down the road too far and have the library and have the museum, which did the work, I believe, put their hands up and say, it's not my problem anymore. Thank you.
Okay, so good point. So along those lines, what is the follow-up? Mr. Hamilton or Ms. Hernandez, what's the follow-up action that can be done in terms of like looking in, is there any time frame that can be looked into on when the library is is supposed to be doing this work or this project, or is there any
Yes.
other information that we can get?
I can check with the library when they plan to start, because we approved the project at HLC. I don't know where it is along the line beyond here. So I'll double check them.
Great.
I think they have to
Thanks.
come back for some donor naming ideas to you anyway. So
Gotcha.
add
Okay, thank you.
okay.
Other, you had announcements, Ms. Hernandez.
Yes. So I do have an announcement about the county courthouse. They are going to be doing a roof repair rehab. There's going to be no visual changes, so it doesn't come to the commission, but it is a big project and one of our most important landmarks in the city. So we wanted to give you all a heads up of when you see work going on there, that is what is happening. But there isn't much to review at the HLC because it's just a repair of the roof to match the original. And I've reviewed the drawings very carefully. But that,
And all complaints can be given to Mr. Uli, Commissioner Uli.
so that's that we wanted to just announce it so you all know if you see work there, why it didn't come to you and what's happening. You can tell others if they ask you.
Sounds good.
I can assure you that if there are any complaints, I will certainly get them.
And watch the crosswalk as well, because Vice Chair House will catch it if they tear it up. So,
It's gone.
all right. Yeah. Other announcements or, yes, Commissioner Drury.
I have to leave at 5:55 this afternoon.
I wonder
All right.
why.
Well, if we're not out by there, I'll eat my
Well, it's
shoes.
either that or bread and water for my mother for dinner.
Yeah. Well, we better get through this agenda in that time.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thanks for the announcement, though. Any other announcements, et cetera? All right. Let's go on to subcommittee reports. Any subcommittee reports? Commissioner Lenvick.
Yes, thank you. I am not sure this is a subcommittee that I'm on, but as you know, I was appointed to the State Street Advisory Committee, and we had our second meeting last Wednesday, the 22nd. Still kind of finding our footing. No really tough decisions are being brought before us that we've got to commit to. It's going to be probably a year at least venture of meetings as we kind of, among all of us, discuss and come to some conclusion as to what State Street might want to look like in the future. So I continue to be there and I will keep you informed.
Great. Thank you, Commissioner Lenvick. All right. Other subcommittee reports? All right. In that case, we will move on to our first agenda item. So this is East Side Neighborhood Park Archaeology Report. This is a proposal to remove and replace existing playground for children aged 2 to 5, including equipment, footings, and safety surfacing. Install new play equipment, safety surfacing, and 42-inch high metal fence. Construction of a new 2,000 square foot playground for children aged 5 to 12, including excavation for subgrade preparation, concrete footings, and concrete curbs. Installation of new play equipment, safety surface, 42-inch high fence, installation of youth adult fitness equipment, installation of permeable concrete paved walkway, remove chain link fencing and replace a new location, and irrigation system improvements. This is requesting acceptance of the Phase 1 archaeological report prepared by Wood Environmental and Infrastructure Solutions, Inc. All right. So with that, Commissioner Manuel.
Yeah, sorry, I have to recuse myself for a conflict of interest with the owner.
Okay, thank you. All right. Mr. Hamilton, do we have the applicant here?
Mr. Chair, yes, we do have the applicant here for questions. I don't know if the report preparer is here currently, but the applicant may be able to tell us. I just wanted to note that the overall project will be reviewed by the ABR, and that Dr. Glassow reviewed the report and agrees with its conclusions and recommendations. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And if someone from the applicant team that is here wants to chime in or come on. All right, and if you would introduce yourself for the record.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Denise Johns, Associate Planner with the City's Parks Department.
Okay, thank you. So did you want to, well, welcome, and did you want to give a quick summary of the report findings, and then we can go to public comment, and then we'll come back to the commission for any questions for a motion.
Just quickly, I understand that the Phase 1 report is indicating that there are the likelihood of cultural resources at the site are unlikely. And our preparer is going to be on the phone in a few minutes to answer more questions for you. And I'm sorry, what was the other part of your question?
That was it, just the sort of the summary of it. And then, yeah, so the summary and conclusion of it. And then we were going to go to public comment and then come back to the commission for questions on it.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, so if that concludes, we'll go to public comment, and then we'll come back for any questions. Maybe the preparer of the report will be here by then if there are any questions. All right, so as the screen now shows, please, if you do have want to make public comment on this item, please click on the green arrow hand icon and follow the instructions, and you'll have 2 minutes to speak.
Thank you, Chair Grunbein. And if you are attending by webinar and would like to give oral public comment, please follow the instructions on screen. Ms. Tarnowska, did we receive any written correspondence regarding this item?
Thank you. No written public comment was received for this item. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I see only a handful of attendees by webinar and no hands raised. So commissioners, back to you for questions. And I do think that if there are questions, it would be a good idea just to trail this item until the report preparer is here. So it just depends on if you have any questions or not. Back to you.
All right, so thank you. Any questions from the commission? I guess the only, okay, and if there's no questions, we'll go into comments and things. My one comment would be that, you know, if they're taking out the structure for ages 2 to 5 and they're putting in one for 5 to 12, I guess the 5-year-olds have it in terms of either way they got to play on it. So aside from that, is there, if there's no questions or other comments, there's someone wants to make a motion? Commissioner Uli?
Mr. Chair, I think I find the report adequately documents the conditions on and presumably below the ground. And I think it's acceptable. I'll make a motion to accept the report as it's written.
Second.
All right, motion by Commissioner Uli, a second by Vice Chair House. And under discussion, any discussion? All right, in that case, let's have a roll call vote.
All right, thank you. I'll go ahead and start with Commissioner Edmonds,
Yes.
Commissioner Lundy,
Yes.
Commissioner Mahan,
Yes.
Commissioner Uli,
Yes.
Vice Chair House,
Yes.
Commissioner Drury,
Yes.
and Chair Grumbine.
Aye.
All right, motion carries. Thank you.
All right, we are on to item 2, the archaeology report for 925 Minnow Road. This is a revised description, proposal to demolish an existing non-conforming 2-story, 2,654 square foot single unit residence and 465 square foot garage and construct a new 2-story, 4,720 square single unit residence with a 442 square foot attached garage. The project includes 40 cubic yards of grading within the footprint of the proposed structure and 50 cubic yards of grading outside of the footprint. This is requesting acceptance of a phase 1 archaeological report prepared by Brian Bass, PhD, RPA, and Ignacio Requena, MS of Strata Science. Okay, Mr. Hamilton.
Thank you, Chair Grumbine and Commissioners. Just wanted to note that this project is under Single Family Design Board purview, so we'll be reviewing the project for project design approval and final. And Dr. Glassow has reviewed the report and agrees with the conclusions and recommendations and does specifically state that the main conclusion he agrees with is that the project should involve monitoring during ground disturbance activities. And also just of note is the sandstone block with the milling sites located in it, kind of a curious find on the parcel. And I don't think we have the report preparer here at the meeting, unfortunately. So if there are any questions, I can try to answer them. I did read the report. Just let me know. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. All right, was there any questions, I guess? Well, I guess we can go to public comment then now if there's no one to present anything. So let's go to public comment. Any member of the public wishing to comment on this item can do so by clicking on the green arrow hand icon, follow the instructions, and you'll get 2 minutes to speak.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. And I should note that the conclusion of the report was also that there's low likelihood of encountering any archaeological resources on site. They did do a survey of the site and did not locate any significant subsurface resources. So, okay, and for public comment, there are only a handful of attendees, no hands raised. So Ms. Ternovskaya, did we receive any written correspondence?
Thank you, Mr. Hamilton. We did not receive any written correspondence for this item. Back to you.
Okay, thank you. Still no hands raised in the webinar. So back to you for questions and comments.
All right, thank you. Okay, Commissioner Uli.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Hamilton, did the city archaeologists suggest that the report be amended to include some conditions that address the resources they identified, or you were just making a comment?
The city environmental analyst reviewed the report and agreed that the standard condition for monitoring during ground disturbance should be applied during the construction phase.
Thank you.
All right, any other questions? All right, in that case, comments or a motion?
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Uli.
I will make a motion that we accept the Phase 1 archaeological report for 925 Tomato Road and also include the standard conditions that the environmental analyst suggested be included.
I'll second that.
All right. Thank you. Motion by Commissioner Uli, second by Vice Chair House. Under discussion, any discussion? All right, roll call vote, please.
All right, thank you. I'll start with Commissioner Ludwig,
Yes.
Commissioner Mahan,
Yes.
Commissioner Uli,
Yes.
Vice Chair House,
Yes.
Commissioner Manuel,
Yes.
Commissioner Drury,
Yes.
Commissioner Edmonds,
Yes.
and Chair Grumbine.
Aye.
All right, the motion carries. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, we are on to item 3 now, 131 Castillo Street. This is a new item for concept review. This is the Plaza Del Mar band shell, constructed in 1919 by Windsor Sewell in the Mission Revival style as a city landmark. Proposal for rehabilitation work consisting of structural repairs, repair of the roof and associated waterproofing, and exterior envelope repairs. Project includes accessibility upgrades, including a wheelchair ramp with access to the stage and a new paved accessible path between the ramp and the lawn seating area, and electrical upgrades, including new stage lighting and security lighting. Concept review, there's no final appealable action will be taken at this hearing. The architectural historian prepared a historic significance report and a memorandum evaluating the project Secretary of Interior standards. All memos and staff reports can be viewed online. All right. Commissioner Manuel.
Surprise, surprise, I have a conflict of interest with the owner and I need to recuse myself.
All right. Thank you. All right. So with that, Mr. Hamilton or Mrs. Hernandez, is there any discussion before we go into the presentation on that?
I don't have any. I found that the project meets the Secretary of Interior standards as concluded in the memo. So if the commission agreed, it would meet.
Okay.
Not have anything.
And Mr. Chair, Commissioners, just to note that the project is for repairs and rehabilitation, as well as the addition of an ADA ramp. And I think the applicant is here and they can talk about it further.
All right.
All right, so hi, I don't know if you can hear me. This is Barry Winnick with Winnick Architects.
Yes, Mr. Winnick, we can.
Combining commissioners. Okay, great. I'm glad. Wasn't sure if like the icons weren't showing me whether or not we were up. So anyway, thank you for this agenda item. And also with me, which really is leading this effort, is Jason Curry from Architectural Resources Group. And next to me is David Brown, also of Winnick Architects. So not unlike the last time we were in front of you, we have the pleasure to come in front of you to, oops, something has happened to my screen. Do you guys still hear me? I was trying to include.
Yeah, we can still hear you.
Improve the volume, okay. Anyway, the last time we came in front of you was for the Carrillo Gym. And again, we had the pleasure to basically bring up to date and to repair and take good care of an important city landmark. So this time we've got the Plaza Del Mar band shell, which was in much worse shape than our last project. This project, fortunately, from some of the photographs, it is lacking a roof. And it has the unfortunate, chain link fence around it just to keep people from a hazard. So we'll be delighted to take down the fence, give this building a roof, a handicap ramp, and restore the colors. And you'll see that ARG is great at this. they did the forensic analysis of the paint going back in time to find out what the original color palette was for the band shell. So anyway, let's go right into the presentation. And I think you'll be starting with the existing photograph conditions of what it looked like from the boom lift. So who has control of the, okay, great. Okay, so this first page is giving you existing conditions on the day that they commissioned the boom lift to take a look at the facility. So, you know, I imagine most everybody's been by it recently. You know, it's kind of, you know, it's unattended. So let's go to the next page because they'll start getting the more closer details. So there's the band shell. We've got the elevations from all four sides, and you know its current state. And the next photo is really where it gets to be telling. Series of photos. Oh, wait a second. Oh, that's a separate package page. And Jason, I'm hoping that they've enabled your ability to speak too. So hopefully, Jason is panelist status. There's a separate book that he included, which I'm hoping that you guys have as a document to bring up. I'm thinking that sequence-wise, it might be good to see that early on. So Ted, if we can bring that forward.
Mr. Bolton, if you pull up the exhibits document, that's what they're looking for. And Mr. Winnick, I cannot promote Mr. Curry to panelist for some reason. I have unmuted him in the attendee list. So Mr. Curry, just know that you're unmuted and you may speak when you're ready.
Oh, great.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Can you all hear me all right?
We can, Jason. Thank you.
Yes, loud and clear.
Great, thanks.
And we can go, if it's too hard, we can go through this part of the presentation, but I think seeing the exhibit, okay, well, there's also an exhibit that shows existing photos, but this again is showing it rendered with the paint scheme that's been proposed for the band shell. So we just jumped way ahead in the presentation, but yeah, I think I'll just go with
the joys of virtual presentation.
Yes, okay. You guys can be flexible. You know, one of the things I learned about COVID is flexibility is everything. So let's start with this. We're going to give you the punchline first. So this is what we're proposing. And what what you didn't get was us taking you through the glossies of all the pictures of, you know, the despair. So the proposal on this, which you can see, is we're artfully wrapping a handicap ramp around the backside of the band shell. So that way you still have that same presentation at the front of the band shell with the stairs on either side. And the handicap ramp comes around the back and delivers the person accessible access right at the top of the stair. So from a front elevation, you almost don't know it's there. The band shell is this off-white, and I forgot all the great names, but these paint colors have great names, but that was forensically determined the original color. The inside of the shell, upper side is, you know, the sky blue. The lower area, which normally be, you know, like your plinth, is a off-white to a brown trending, and then the face of the stage and the face of the steps are all a concrete gray. That one I remembered the name. It's called Mouse Gray. So anyway, again, we're very much recreating how it would have looked, you know, 40 years ago. Let's go to the next. Hopefully it looked this way 40 years ago. See what else is in the exhibit. There's the side view, which gives you a much better idea of the introduction of the handicap ramp, which is right from where the stair landing at the right-hand side of the building, if you're looking at the south upper elevation, and then it's cascading down around the back. So the handicap ramp, in a sense, becomes the new plinth on the back, sides and back of the building. And then you can go to the next page, please. Okay, there's one of the things that you can't really tell in the rendering, there's going to be a chain for security draped across the front of the proscenium in order to give people the message that they're not supposed to park themselves there overnight. At one point, Parks and Recs was thinking that they would need to have a more robust fence but ARG, Jason and his team was able to advocate a less intrusive approach and to use also security lighting on a motion detector. So between the chain and the motion detector lighting, hopefully that would dissuade people from camping out overnight. So this is the chain. Next image.
I think
Okay,
we've gone
so
into the fixture cut sheets here.
we did. Like I said, we're going to go whichever way. So,
Barry?
yes.
Hi, Barry. Maybe if we could, we're getting into the details really early, I understand. If we could go to the site investigation photos, I think that's where
That's
you
what I was
wanted to
hoping.
start.
Yeah, it is. So I'm not sure why they didn't come up, but okay.
Mr. Van Molen, is that the boom lift photo set?
Yes, it's the boom lift.
Yes.
Mr. Bolton, if you go to page 35 of the plan set, that's where that starts.
Oh, thank you. Perfect. That is where I wanted to go. So, okay, maybe being flexible with COVID didn't work. So here we go. This is what, this tells the story so well. So just go ahead and just toggle through and we'll start commenting as we see things. So there's the boom and there is the roof. You can see right through it. And if you're inside the building looking out, you see sky. So it literally has no roofing on the planking. So part of the program is to replace any rotted wood, properly sheathed, properly roofed, the whole building. There's dry rot and damage inside too, obviously with all this water coming in. So that's all part of the system. The plan is to replace everything that's damaged. Next photo, please. That one really gives it away. More of the same. What's good is at least the profiles are still there. So we do have something to follow, but we just have to replace all the trim. So there's any place that was wood before, it's being replaced with wood. Any place that was plaster before is being, the spalled plaster is being repaired and it'll be back to plaster. So it'll be like for like materials. And there you go, metal flashing that all needs to be replaced, wood trim that needs to be repaired or replaced. Okay. It is a sweet building, right? It has these nice details. So in some places, this is a case where the pediments on the Capitol is actually in pretty good shape. But you can see off to the left of it, it's totally rotted through and damaged. And here's a case where the Capitols need to be repaired. Keep going. Spalling concrete also will be repaired. Wainscot, same thing. Again, there's going to be a lot of wood replacement. More of the same. So one thing that, yes.
Mr. Winnick, we've got 7 minutes left. If we could go into the plan set.
That would be fine. I'll explain why this tape is here. The stage had been built up, so we're now bringing it back to its original height. So that's what that was about, which also helps facilitate getting the handicap lift ramp in without having to go so high. So sure, let's go to the plan set.
The plans, HLC concept only.
Yep. Okay, so that page you just saw was the forensic study of the different paint samples. So the overall plan you're seeing now, and there is a new travel path being planned to get to the band shell. So you're seeing that where there's that little dog leg of the pathway that comes from Castillo Street and over the band shell. And the handicap parking is way off to the left by the ball field where it hits the parking lot. That's actually the drop-off point. And there's a ramp that runs the entire distance towards the band shell. You can go to the next page. So, just what needs to be done for handicap parking. We can go to the next step. The drop off. That's a better example of the ramp or the path that leads to the band shell now that's being proposed, added. And that leads to the bottom of the handicap ramp, which starts on the left-hand side, wraps around, and lands at the right-hand side at that stair landing. Go to the next one. That's a close-up of the, it's pretty self-explanatory of the existing. Next, there's your roof plan of the existing. Keep going. Elevations of the existing without the handicap ramp drawn in. So you've already seen them with the ramp. Next, please. Side views, same thing. Next. Okay, and that's showing the existing with the floor finishes. Next. Now you finally see it with the ramp added, wrapping around the back side and everything else being restored. But at that new elevation, which is fine. So, when I say new elevations, we're back to the original elevation rather than a stepped up stage. And then that next photo, next image. Roof plan again, restored roof, proper drainage. Next, please. And that is the reflected ceiling plan, and that starts relating to the lighting. So around the proscenium, there used to be, basically the theatrical light bulbs that you would see there. So ARG has proposed a new light fixture that has a shield on it. That's an opalescent shield LED fixture to recreate that same idea of the light bulbs around the proscenium. Next, please. So you see in that elevation, lower elevation shows those little domed lights all around the proscenium. And it also shows you, the restored wainscot, the repaired iron or new iron railings, and all the rest of the repairs that are being proposed all around. They're also showing the light fixtures that give that nice little wash on the building. That was those other ones that you saw in the that other presentation sheet. Next page, please. Side view, front view. I'm sorry, back view, front view. Next. Trying to get this in 7 minutes. I think we've probably gone over. Again, side view with all the details called out. Even though we're here for conceptual, this project, if we were farther along in the zoning approvals, planning approvals, we in fact could be back here, for preliminary final. Again, showing the railings and the entrance handicap ramp all around it. Again, next page. Axons, explaining it. I think you've probably gotten that picture by now. Next page. And now you're seeing it in the context with the 3Ds. I think we're pretty much there. We're probably back to the boom lift images, I think, but maybe next page, just to see. Oh, okay, a cross section. Next. Again, as I was saying, the details are pretty well developed. So you're seeing the detail through the added structure for the handicap ramp going around the back and the sides, and the ventilation that's being shown for underneath. And next page. Again, updated parapet details, proper drainage at the roof. Next page. And then details on the railing. And this railing, I think, is very much like the one at the new Vic. So, it's been used in a historic setting in the city before and it's been successful. Next page, please. Structural framing, you probably don't need to see all that. As I said, again, we're at that point where we could be going at preliminary final. So that's why you're seeing a very thorough set. You can cycle through these quickly. since we've got 1 minute and 8 seconds. Next page, please. So Alan Knoll is doing the electrical. Just forgetting Jeffrey Haight was the structural. So again, we're working with people in town who are familiar with doing historic restoration, know the ropes. Okay, now we're back to the boom lift. If you wanted to see those cut sheets on the lighting, we could go back to that other presentation, or basically go to you guys for comments. So that's the light. Jason, you can, if you want to say anything about the lighting, be my guest. I think these are EchoSense LED lights, 2800 Kelvin or 2700 Kelvin in this case. That would be the proscenium lights. So
This one is the motion sensor light for security.
Exactly. And then these would be step lights around the side of the, where the handicap ramp is, in that low plinth side, as well as along the side of the steps. I think that's it.
I think that's it.
All right.
All right. 15 minutes for comments, I guess. Thank you.
Great.
Sorry to rush it so much.
All right. Oh, no, that's good. A lot of drawings to go through. So, all right. So now let's go to public comment. Any member of the public wishing to comment on this item, please click on the green arrow hand icon, follow the instructions, and you have 2 minutes to speak. Mr. Hamilton, are you on? Or are you frozen? You might be frozen. Is there someone else from staff that could knows if there's someone in the public comment room raising their hands?
Sure, this is Mary. I can go ahead and do it. So at this time, if you are in the attendees list and you'd like to speak, you can raise your hand. At this time, no one has raised their hand, and we did receive 2 letters of written correspondence, one from Ed Cavazos and another from Kathy McGill, which were distributed to the commission before this meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Hamilton, maybe you're back? Or maybe not.
He's back in theory.
Yeah.
Poor Mr. Hamilton.
All right, well, I think we'll close public comment. Yeah, we'll close public comment and we'll come back to the commission for questions. So, Commissioners, questions.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Drury. Oh, Mr. Hamilton, you're back.
Yes, I'm back. Sorry about that. I don't know what happened there. I think I just lost connection. I think we did have 1 hand raised. Did that person get called on?
No, they didn't.
No.
So let's go open
No.
up public comment.
At this time, I did not see anyone with their hand raised.
Okay, I did see a hand raised by Hattie Beresford. So I just want to check in with that person if that's all right, just to make sure. Okay, Hattie Beresford, I've unmuted you, and you'll have to hit the microphone icon in order to speak. And if you didn't wish to give public comment, you can just
Okay, there, can you hear me now?
Yes.
So,
Yep, we can hear you loud and clear.
hi, yes, I'm definitely interested in this particular project, and I'm so happy to hear and see that there are going to be repairs and restoration made on it. I do have a few concerns. I've done an extensive history of the area that hasn't been published yet, so you don't know about it. But I am concerned about maintaining the symmetry of that structure. And I'm not sure that the way some of the things that are being done are maintaining that symmetry. It's a beautiful, beautiful little structure. It is where the Community Arts Association basically started there in Plaza Del Mar. There are all sorts of wonderful things. I'm a little concerned about the railings. Is this something that must happen because the original did not have railings? And I just think that most of the things you're doing are fabulous, the forensic analysis of the colors and everything else. But I am concerned with the symmetry and the effect on the structure visually of the handicap access. Comments?
Is that your is that all? Is that all you have to say, or do you want you have another 45 seconds?
Well, that's very nice of you. Wow. No, I mean, if you have any questions of me about the history of it, I'd be happy to answer them if I know them. I know that on the Parks and Recreation website, it's a little bit incomplete and a little bit off. I'd be happy to send you the citations from the newspaper to make that correct so that you would have the evidence of it. I mean, it's very minor stuff, but so maybe not necessary. But I just really want to express a concern for the symmetry and the appearance of it once it's all finished. And again, restoring it, what a gift. Thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you. Okay, great. And if there are any questions of you, then we can pull you back on if the commission has any questions. So, all right, thank you. Mr. Hamilton, anyone else from the public?
Mr. Chair and Commissioners, no additional hands raised at this time, and Mr. Scott did confirm with me behind the scenes that we acknowledged written correspondence, so we can now close public comment and move on to questions. Thanks.
All right, great. So we'll close public comment on to questions from the commission.
Mr. Chair.
Question.
Oh, man,
Vice Chair House.
you beat me to it.
I'm so sorry. I
I
have
know.
a question about what else? Lighting. So if we could return to the lighting page. The cut sheets that show the fixtures.
Oh, that was on the colored presentation.
Okay, yeah, because it's not in the set that we had access to.
Yeah, sorry, we did submit this a little bit afterwards.
Okay, now what are these fixtures? Oh, those are cove lighting?
Exactly. Yeah, those are cove lighting. They're going to fit in behind the proscenium along the arch and just give a little bit of a wash on the dome.
Okay, and those are LED as well?
They're LED with a warm color temperature.
Yeah, okay. And then if we could go to the exposed lamps in the proscenium, I think it was the next page.
That's close.
No,
that's
next
two.
page. Next page.
There you
There
go.
we go. So I would have expected to see something with a clear envelope with the filament exposed, but in these days, LED. I'm not sure if you have any information on what kind of lamps they originally used, but the appearance of these just looks so contemporary. And I can't remember what the configuration of the lights I'm thinking of. They could be globe lights, which is a G like this, or sign lights, which I think is a S9 or something like that. But I'm just wondering what your thoughts are on why using this with this translucent envelope and that opaque part next to the threads.
I can start.
Miss,
I mean, the opaque part you
Go
won't
ahead,
see.
whoever from the applicant wants to answer.
Okay, well, I'll start, but Jason can finish. The opaque part, will be tied up against the building. The original lights would have been, I think what we all imagine are just the old regular Edison bulbs. And I think the thinking behind this is that the city has rules that you're not supposed to see bare lamps. So this is a frosted light fixture. If you felt that an exposed globe, because of the historic significance or compatibility with the original structure, made more sense, we'd certainly be open to that. This was more trying to be in compliance with current ordinances.
Mr. Chair, members of the commission, we also have a concern. This is not Marquee that is downtown on State Street. This is a building that is in the middle of a park, and if those lights you can see.
Spanish colonial revival architecture and lanterns with clear CD glass. You want to get that shadow pattern onto the stucco walls and ceiling. So that's the way to do it. So I don't know if anybody else has any comments on these. They just look temporary.
Let's hold off a little bit and wait till we get into comment time. But in terms of questions,
you've answered my questions. Thank you.
Yeah, and why didn't you break the rule? Come on, it's your chance to break the light rule. Okay, so any other questions by commissioners?
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Drury.
Yes, thank you. Good afternoon, Mr. Winnick. My question is, there's no opportunity, I hope, for you're not doing a bunch of concrete work, is that correct? There's not no concrete what's the word, rehabilitation that needs to be done, is that correct?
Well, there's foundation work for the handicap ramp.
Right, okay, yeah, but I'm talking about the
there's
band shell itself.
Right, so on the band shell itself where there's spalled concrete, that's being repaired, but we're not like tearing out major amounts of concrete and replacing it, if that's what you're asking.
Yeah, I was just thinking of that bad surprise in the pillars of the Cabrillo Arts Center. They found that the rebar had been rotted from the inside, so none of that would occur, right?
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Nolan.
This building, I thought it was poured in place concrete for many years as I drove by, but come to find out, it is not. It looks like a poured in place concrete building, but it is wood framed.
Oh, wow. Okay, so we don't have to worry about rotting rebar then.
That is correct.
Thank you. That's my question. Thank you.
All right. Other questions from the commissioners? I have a question regarding the. So if you can zoom in, this is a good spot. If you could zoom in either of the elevations, the front elevation actually. Let's start with that. So regarding the handrail and guardrail. So is there what's going to be the requirements? Well, why don't you tell us about the requirements, what has to be, and then also about pickets or no pickets with that height, and are you using historic building code, or how is that whole thinking? Is it not so tall that you need the pickets, or is there or how is that getting around it as well on the platform?
Sure,
yeah.
Jason.
Thanks. There's a code exception for guardrails that are on ramps adjacent to stages. So it's the top portion of the ramp is high enough that you would normally be required to have a guardrail, but there's an exception to that requirement for stages and for stairs and ramps that are adjacent to stages. So we're just showing the required handrails and no guardrail or pickets, as you said.
Great, perfect, thank you. And then I had another question regarding the ramp, and this ties to the idea brought up by the public comment person about symmetry, and obviously it's a very symmetrical element, but structure. But was there consideration, or is there consideration now for in part of this design for setting off what was the original being the stairs symmetrically, and in this case, the bottom left corner is the only spot they're not symmetrical really, because the plane things all plane out with the landing at the top landing of the ramp. Was there consideration for giving it a little setback of a couple inches or something to differentiate, so that you have perfect symmetry on the stairs going up, and then it's just the side piece and on one side of the landing, and then the beginning of the ramp on the other that are asymmetrical? Was that option looked at or thought of And then tied to that is also the color question. Was there a thought about a potential other color for the ramp of a slight differentiation or some other way of differentiating what was original to the ramp addition, or any thoughts along those lines?
I mean, I think the idea of the different color for the ramp, that hadn't been considered, and the configuration of the setback, you know, we can certainly study that. I don't think we did study that. I think we could. My personal opinion is that the ramp color, although it's nice to know the history of something, that the ramp actually becomes less of an element if it does blend with that pedestal color that you're seeing at this on the side of the stairs. So I'm not so sure I would advocate that. I think the step back that you suggested, if there's enough room and plan for it to work, even if it's only 6 inches, I think that could be valuable.
Okay, thank you. And then I have one question about the ventilation underneath the ramp. And I don't know if it's best to go to the details page for that, but I just wanted to try to understand it a little better. Maybe it wasn't as clear in detail or elevation as to how that's all happening and what that material is. Is that in concrete, or no, is that framing and then ventilation?
Well, I think they can zoom in on it for you. And this is just to air out the crawl space.
Yeah,
it's just passive
gotcha.
ventilation.
Yep.
Oh, sorry. They've up to the left was the detail that had the vent showing. That one, yes. Thank you. So there you go.
Okay,
so
the
it's
louvered, there we go. Okay, the louvered.
It's just
So there's that louver vent is on the wainscot of the existing building. Where the ramp is high, we're moving it out to the face of the ramp, and where the ramp is low, it's just the existing one.
Okay, so I see. So that's an existing louvered vent, at least designed there. Okay, and then you're moving it out to that outer face. Got it. Okay, great. All right, that was it for my questions. Any other questions?
Mr. Chair?
Commissioner Uli. Commissioner Uli, then Commissioner Drury.
Okay, thank you.
If you could go back to return to the front elevation, please. In response to the comment about symmetry, had you explored the beginning of the ramp with an entry that is not seen, so that it looks the same on the left as it does on the right, and you just enter it from the side rather than the front as the beginning of the ramp to ensure that it has symmetry?
Yeah, I think I'm understanding kind of like a little screen wall that would be the same height as the high side of the ramp.
Yes, and you enter it
from the other side.
from the side.
Yeah, we did. I don't think we did study that. I mean, there were all kinds of other studies with, you know, the ramp all on one side and stuff, but that could be interesting. Jason, what do you think of that? It seems to make sense.
Yeah, I think it is. There's a historic photo on the very front cover sheet, and it gives you a little bit of a sense of, well, actually, that's not the one that I was thinking of. But, it has less of a presence when you've got kind of a full audience in the lawn area, and my thought was, you know, less, since it's not going to be highly visible, you know, less elements. But I think a little screen wall there could work. We could study that.
There's
So
really
interesting to have.
I'm sorry, that screen wall is not going to be taller than the elevation of the stage, right?
Right.
Correct.
I think that would ensure that it looks symmetrical from the audience and would address the public's concern about that particular issue.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
I like that.
All right, Commissioner Drury.
Yes, thank you. Well, Commissioner Uli asked that my first question. The second question is the railing as presented, is that set in stone, so to speak?
Set in concrete.
Set in concrete, yeah. Is it?
I mean, we need to have a railing. So the need for a railing, that is required. Can the railing
Okay.
design be different? It can be studied, of course. It could be different. Well, we think this one has a nice pedigree, that it worked out very well in front of the new Vic. It's got a sturdiness to it, a nice feel, and it's, pretty unassuming.
Okay, well, I'll leave that for comments. Thank you.
Sure.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions before we go into
Mr.
comments?
Chair.
Vice Chair House?
I was just reminded by the historic photo that behind the orchestra, below the dome, there was paneling on that wall. Maybe you addressed that earlier and I didn't hear it, but I also see it on page A 2.00, it's depicted. Is that something non-original?
That is original, and there are most of the elements there, so that's part of the repair.
Yeah. The only thing that we didn't
It's not in the
delineate was-
rendering. It's just
Well,
not
it's
in the
only in
rendering,
one.
right?
Yeah,
Okay.
I guess it didn't get in the rendering, but the way it's rendered is that it would just be this one singular color rather than two colors that were showing up in that photograph.
Okay, so the paneling would be there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And do you have a section through like the top of the proscenium that shows how those lamps are mounted and exactly what one would see?
Which page would that be on?
Yeah, towards the end, there's a section. The marquee globe lights was an original detail. So on the bottom face of that arch, the receptacles are still there. So we're proposing to reuse those.
Okay.
I think, Mr. Bolton, it was back 4 or 5 pages. There was a section.
Try
with the
page 23.
Yeah, I don't think there's an enlarged detail.
Yeah. Okay.
All right.
And I
Any
guess
other
my
questions?
my only other question about these lights is, will they be on a dimmer?
Yes, there are. They're all both on a dimmer.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Any other questions? All right. In that case, let's roll into comments. And let's see, this is not on for either preliminary or final. So let's give comments that are good directions for moving them forward so that they can come back.
Mr. Chair?
All the stuff we want. All right. Commissioner Drury.
Everything we want. Well, I think that I love this idea. I'm very pleased that Mr. Winnick is the lead on this. I know that it'll be done absolutely properly. I think that Commissioner Uli's comments or question comments, I think we're on the money in terms of the symmetry aspect of the project. And I think that should be studied. And I also think that the railing itself should be studied. I'm particularly concerned with the visuals of that big scroll at the end of each rail. It seemed very intrusive. And I think it kind of gets in the way of looking at the stage. I mean, I know this is a drawing and it may disappear in real life, but it seems to me to be just a little too much of a note. So I think the railing should be studied, and perhaps, I'm not sure, there wasn't a railing beforehand, is that correct? I mean, in those old drawings and photographs. Anyway, my comments then would be that I think Commissioner Uli's comments question should be studied, and that the railing should be studied as well. And I think visually that scroll at the end is obtrusive or intrusive. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Thank you, Commissioner Drury. Who wants to go next? Vice Chair House, I'm sure you have lighting.
Yeah, I'll jump in. I'm just still not convinced about the lighting, and my feeling is that it's going to be on a dimmer, and so regardless of whether it's a frosted lamp like they are showing in the plans, or if it were a clear envelope with a LED filament look, I think the light level can be adjusted, that they would have the same effect one way or the other. I just have a feeling that the clear envelope feels more traditional and is commonly available. So that would be my comment about the lighting. I would tend towards that. As far as the asymmetry of the ramp, I don't know. It's kind of 6 of one, half dozen of another. We can't eliminate the ramp. So that element is going to be there. It's an imposition. I mean, it's a design challenge as it's drawn now with the asymmetry introduced. But I'm not convinced that it's necessarily a better solution to have yet another massive element balancing it on the right. So, you know, as it is, it kind of announces that this was a modern addition that was necessary for access. As far as the volutes on the railing, I don't know if they'll actually be perceived as strongly as they kind of look in this drawing, but you know, if the historic building code would allow you to not have those, or instead just kind of have the end post out a little further, so you code in terms of, you know, the distance that you have to go past the last riser. Maybe that's a better solution. So those are my comments.
Okay.
Oh, other than to say, I commend you on your usual high standard of presentation. This is just really excellent. Thank you.
All right, who's next? Commissioner Mahan?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I agree with the compliments to the architect. I think the problem with you're looking at this building here, this is really a very classical building. I would say it's Roman in its classicism. And I think the problem that people are having with the railing is that it's Spanish colonial revival. And we need a Roman railing. And I think that Mr. Winnick should study Roman architecture and see what kind of railings they use. I can't describe it verbally.
So then it'll be set in a balustrade set in stone.
Yeah,
And then
yeah.
Commissioner Drury is going to be happy. It will be set in stone.
They did railings and they weren't in iron. They were stone, or they would look like stone. So I think that's the problem. We're going from Roman architecture to Spanish architecture, and that's the hook. That's the hook that has to be corrected.
We'll look at it.
But generally speaking, I think this is a very, very fine project and a beautiful building. I didn't really appreciate it until I saw these drawings, and it's wonderful. I also agree that the door on the side, the handicapped access to the side and maintain the symmetry is a very important comment. Thank you.
We got 2 in favor of that. Thank you.
All right. Commissioner Edmonds.
Thank you. I too appreciate this project. I mean, this is such a beautiful piece of architecture and so underutilized right now. So it's an exciting thought to think that we'll be able to have this back in play, so to speak, no pun intended. When I look at this east elevation compared to the elevation, or not the elevation, but the original photo that we just saw with the band inside, the stairs were flipped. And I'm sure I'm not explaining that properly, but this way you're going up and out, where the stairs before were going in. And I liked that better, but I understand, you know, it may not be possible. That being said,
just Commissioner Edmonds, just as a point of clarification, can we go back to the stair photo? I don't know if it's just the drawings reading this way or not, but I think that the stairs are still the same. I think it's just
you
the
are
way.
right. Yeah, sorry.
Sorry, I just want to, okay, go ahead.
Okay, no, you're absolutely right. I appreciate that. Thank you. So, gosh, it looks so different this way. Maybe it's just the railing then that's throwing me off.
It might also be the difference between the elevation drawing and then in 3D and what your view actually is. That changes things a little bit too.
Could be.
The benefit of
Right, right. So all that being said, I too agree that symmetry is important. This is so symmetrical when we look at this old photo, that anything that can be done would be appreciated. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Other comments? Commissioner Uli?
I'll join the chorus of accolades to the design team. You know, whenever we hear you've got to add an ADA ramp, I just kind of shudder because, you know, oftentimes they are just miserable executions of trying to comply to ADA. This is very clever that it wraps around the back and almost is invisible pretty much from the audience side. Seeing these drawings when I was reviewing it reminded me of a pizza party I had there 20 years ago with a little transistor radio and Rusty's Pizza delivering pizza for a little birthday party we had there. And it was so enjoyable even then. So I look forward to it being activated and made a part of an active enjoyment for the community. Totally supportive of the project. I think well thought out, well executed. The rail does need to be studied, maybe just more square kind of expression instead of the curly cues kind of a thing. Just make it really simple. Might solve the problem, but thanks for the city pulling this together and bringing it forward.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Uli. Other comments?
Mr. Chair,
Vice Chair House?
I have one final thought on that lighting in the proscenium. With clear glass envelopes, they will pretty much disappear in the daylight as opposed to a whole bunch of white orbs there. So I think that's another strong argument for having clear glass envelopes.
I was
So you're not in favor? Okay.
Mr. Chair.
So you're not in favor of the twisty, curly fluorescence?
Oh, please no.
We'll be delighted to come back with clear lenses. I'm convinced.
All right. All right. Commissioner Uli?
One final comment. You know, with the maturation of the drawings and how far along they are with this, I'm really supportive of it. I think we could suggest that they get PDA. I don't know what other steps you have, Mr. Winnick, to get through zoning or anything else, but I think you're very much there. Just some minor little tweaks I think that you've got to work on before you bring it back, but I think it's ready for a PDA.
Great, thank you. That's
Right.
what we'd like to do, come back for that.
Okay, so with that, I'll wrap in my comments here. And I just echo what everyone said so far. This is a great project. We're very happy with how everything is going. And with a few minor tweak areas that people have mentioned, and I'll summarize in a second. The only additional comment I would say was that, and this is an interesting struggle because this is one of the high classical buildings of that, as high classical as Santa Barbara gets in terms of our architecture. There's not, I mean, LA or San Diego or other places usually get much more fussy with their classicism. So this is one of our few, fairly developed classical orders. And as Commissioner Mahan mentioned, it's Roman, at least in its tie and character. It's Mission Revival, I think, properly analyzed. It's sort of Mission Revival, but a higher classical form of it. I would say that because the handrails is a big question in that study of the handrails, and studying a more Roman approach, but or also a more Mission Revival approach. So maybe looking at some Mission Revival precedents, and there might be a wrought iron that is a little bit more sympathetic than just simple, or it might end up being just simple is the way to go. So I don't think there's an obvious solution there, but there is maybe a chance to look a little deeper at some connected precedents, and maybe there's a Mission Revival answer somewhere that helps with that. So then let me summarize. I agree with the symmetrical comment as well, at least studying it. I don't necessarily think that I definitely don't think this is a bad solution. I think it's a very clever solution to wrap the ramp, and I don't think it would be offensively asymmetrical, although there might be a slightly better symmetrical solution out there in my mind. So I think those are worth studying, and all the things that were mentioned in terms of the wall on the other side, or just a bump in the ramp, or those types of things that you can study, and maybe come back with a perspective that matches the view of the original photo, because that could be a good comparison. I know you already have a model going, so a good comparison visually for us to understand how the stairs are going away from us, and also how the railings and everything works. So how it looks from that view. Okay, so let me summarize the comments. Hold on, let me just drop them down. Okay, so in general, we're very pleased with the project, the architect and team, and we think that it is ready to be coming back for PDA with the following studies and comments. So to study the symmetry of the structure from the audience, especially from the audience view, the main audience view, trying to get it more symmetrical and recognizing that it is, there's a challenge with the accessible ramp, but that maybe there is a better answer out there that's a little more symmetrical, including including but not limited to studying mirroring the wall, the ramp landing on the left side, mirroring it over to the right side, or other solutions. To study the wrought iron, the scroll or lamb's tongue, however that gets implemented, or study a more Roman solution to the railing, or more mission revival solution. So to look at those with the railing in mind, the lighting is the clear bulb lighting. Historic clear bulb lighting is favored and is recommended. So to look at a solution that involves that and that's close to the original as possible in terms of the look. And then also the other additional note of the design in general, the ramping of the ramp or the wrapping of the ramp is seen as a very clever design, and is looking like it will be the minimal impact for the build of the historic landmark. So any other comments I missed? Okay.
Mr. Chair?
Hearing none, Vice Chair House.
Yes. I just noticed something that I didn't notice before, and I don't recall anybody bringing it up, but at the landing of the ramp on the left, it appears that there's a curb coming up from the ramp surface, which just makes the thing have all that much more mass. And if that's because of ADA requirements, I think an alternative is a horizontal bar at 2 inches up or something like that. So I think anything that can be done to lessen the mass of that would be a benefit.
Okay, good point. I see it. You're saying it now. And the applicant team, was there any comment or response on that? That's where it was going? Is that correct? Or the understanding that
that's Mr. Chair, that's where the lights are hidden, and that's that curb that light that ramp. So you would then have to see those lights on the opposite side.
I'm thinking it would be a good suggestion to study an alternative location for the lights, because I hate to see this additional mass just because of trying to hide some lights. So if there's another solution.
Yep.
Great.
Okay, so let's add that. I think that makes sense. Let's add that as a comment to study that and see if there's another solution for the lighting that doesn't increase the mass or the height of that past the stage height or the last step height. Okay, that comment. Okay, any other comments? All right. Well, is anyone willing to make a motion with that? Commissioner Mahan.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, Commissioner Mahan.
Yeah, with those incorporating those comments, I'll make a motion for a indefinite continuance.
Second.
Tie goes to the vice chair.
I'm good with- That's why he's being paid more.
$51
Right.
for me.
All right, so motion by Commissioner Mahan, second by Vice Chair House. And under discussion, any discussion?
Our compliments to the design team. I think they're really really proceeding in the proper direction, and we're very pleased with this first look at the project.
Yep, absolutely.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Okay, let's have a roll call vote, please.
All right, thank you. I'll go ahead and start Commissioner Uli,
Yes.
Commissioner Mahan,
Yes.
Vice Chair House,
Yes.
Commissioner Drury,
Yes.
Commissioner Edmonds,
Yes.
Commissioner Lundvik, Commissioner Lundvik,
Lundvik,
Was there?
we lose them?
Okay, I'll go ahead and move on to Chair Grumbine.
Yeah.
All right, the motion carries. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you all.
Thank you, everyone. And yeah, very nice project.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
See
you.
you all next time.
All right, and we almost did it. We almost did it before 3 o'clock, but sorry, everyone, we just barely missed it. We could have had the first HLC meeting that I've ever been on that ended before 3 o'clock, but we didn't.
Commissioner
All right.
Drury can get home and start cooking.
He can do
Sorry,
lasagna.
it better be a good dinner for Mama. That's a 3-hour dinner. It better be like 7 courses.
He can do
All right.
lasagna instead of
It's going to
bread.
be a big meal tonight.
That's right.
Steak,
Yeah.
beef champignon, I don't know what all.
All right.
All right,
Sounds
everybody.
good. All right,
See you in 2
meeting's
weeks.
adjourned. Bye.
Thank you.